guys, how's it going? Master Bucks here. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to my... This is probably going to be the most painful video I'm ever going to have to record, but I'm going to get it out the way. It is time for me to react to my Premier League predictions, and look, there's no sugarcoating it. I have absolutely fucking dropped the ball this year. Like no other year I have ever done before. I'm so fucking pissed off. I really am. But I'm going to break down everything, you know, all my picks, all my decision making and everything, and try to justify all the positions that I put all the teams in that, you know, where they finished in the Premier League table. We'll take a look at where they all finished, and I'm just going to try to make a little bit of sense of what the fuck is going on in such a crazy year with COVID this and everything shutting down. Like, I don't know, man. But let's just get into this. The quicker I can get this done, the better. And let's begin from bottom to top, shall we, ladies and gentlemen? Let's begin with Norwich City, who I had obviously in 17th place. You can see the columns, by the way. Position means obviously where they finished in real life. Prediction means where I predicted them to go. And then you just see the difference in the positions and where I put them and where they actually finished. All right, clarification. Now let's get into it. Norwich City, I had them in 17th because coming up from the Championship, they actually were playing some bloody great football. They had a very good style in the Championship. I wondered if they were going to be able to bring it up and replicate it in the Premier League. It wasn't really a style where it was very possession-based, but I still thought that maybe they were a bit of a chance of staying up regardless because of just the fact that they were one of the better teams in the Championship, one of the more impressive, but they didn't really put it together. They had a super tough start to their season and they just kind of never really recovered, you know. Certain players of theirs that were stars for them in the Championship didn't really get it together, like Timo Pukki for a bit. Yeah, it just didn't really click for him. And a team that, now that I look back, you know, they were probably a team that were always going to be relegated. But I had a suspicion that maybe they were a shot of staying up, but they didn't go, obviously. They didn't stay up. Watford in 19th. I put them in 11th. Yep, I did. All right, yeah. Now we're going to just get some shit ones out of the way here. This is probably the pick I'm the most pissed off at myself for, right? Because I went back and watched my prediction video, and in that exact video, I said that Watford in 11th doesn't even seem right. I said that at the beginning of the season. Why didn't I listen to myself? They've finished in 19th place, although to be fair, I don't think a lot of people expected Watford to actually go down. I mean, maybe part of the reason I put them around that, you know, high bottom 10, like, you know, mid-table, is because that was basically where they finished last season. They finished 11th last season. It didn't really show many signs of regression or anything. But I don't know. I just think their goal scoring fell off a cliff. The defense wasn't that great and just, yeah, finished in a... I am surprised that they have gone down. 18th was Bournemouth. I mean, again, Bournemouth had become, like, not really a mainstay, but they'd played so many seasons in the Premier League. I kept doubting them for all this time prior and thought, well, I mean, if they haven't gotten relegated yet, who knows? Eddie Howe's clearly just a genius. He knows his team, and surely they'll just at least become, you know, that team that always just flirts with relegation but never quite goes down. But this season, it's not the case. I mean, they finished 12th 2 seasons ago, 14th last season, and they were a bit, you know, weak at the back. I thought they had rectified that with some signings, but that clearly wasn't the case. Aston Villa finished in 17th. I had them in 12th. My reasoning for that was that, you know, they'd made a bunch of signings. I thought they'd have a bit of hype around them being a pretty, you know, reasonably sized club coming back up in the Premier League, but that definitely is not how it worked. I think they pretty much did a Fulham. A lot of signings, not a real core group, and I think that definitely hindered them at the beginning of the season and through the midway point of the season. But the Villa that I thought would be playing in the Premier League only rocked up in the last couple of games when they started playing brilliantly and got some great results to stay up. So I have a feeling Villa will probably do a lot better next season. I don't expect them to go down next season. West Ham finished in 16th. I put them in 9th. And you know what? Some of the picks here that are so woefully awful, I'm just going to own up to. This one, I'm just going to say this once. Fuck off, West Ham. Seriously, what the fuck are you doing here? You're making me look bad and you're embarrassing yourselves, alright? You're embarrassing the both of us. I'm not fucking happy. West Ham picked up Haller at the beginning of the season. He actually looked quite good, but only really got like 7 goals. Not terrible, but not great. Fornals looked good, and he only got 5 assists, despite the fact that he actually led the season in assists for them as well. But I don't know, they just had a stinker of a season, like abysmal. I'm just pissed off at I'm pissed off at West Ham. Like seriously, just fuck off, man. Just do better. You're a joke, finishing in there. Like come on, you should be finishing at the very least fighting for top 10. Brighton I put in 19th position. They finished in 15th. Fair play to Brighton for finishing there. I had questions about Graham Potter, who looked to be a very inexperienced manager, or hadn't managed at a very high level, but seemed to do a relatively decent job with a Brighton team that was relying very heavily on Glenn Murray toward the end of last season. Didn't look like they were improving. In fact, they looked like they were dropping off toward the end of last season. I didn't think much of them this season, but they've managed to keep themselves up, so fair play. These next two, Crystal Palace and Newcastle, basically finishing at around about the same spots I thought that they would. I mean, Crystal Palace, it didn't really seem like there would be any reason why they would have a big drop off or increase, so they finished about where they did last season. And same for Newcastle. We invested pretty heavily in some players like Alan St. Maximin and Joel Linton, brought in Steve Bruce, and I was a bit, I didn't know I thought we'd survive, but I didn't know if he'd be able to get the most out of them. But finishing in 13th is definitely a pretty respectable finish, I think, all things considered. So yeah, I mean, those picks I'm happy with. Everton finishing in 12th is a bit of a shock. I am quite surprised. I thought Everton, after a pretty, maybe not strong, but respectable season last season, finishing in 8th, just missing out on 7th, again, their holy grail, to Wolves, who I thought Wolves were great last season, but I didn't think they'd replicate their season, so they went on and did bits again. But Everton finishing in 12th really surprised me. I thought some of their younger stars, Calvert-Lewin, Richarlison, would really step up, and I mean, like, they kind of did. They had good seasons, but just overall, bit disappointing Everton to be finishing in 12th, I reckon. Southampton finishing in 11th is quite surprising as well. Like, Everton, Southampton I thought would finish 16th, just above the relegation zone. And again, I thought that they were going to do even worse than that. I thought that they were on track to go down potentially. You remember when they lost 8-9-0 to Leicester City? We're all like, wow, this team is absolutely on the ropes. And yet, I think it was that absolute shellacking that they just had to look at themselves in the mirror and go, what are we doing? And that sort of maybe turned their season around, because they really, and not only that, but who would have called Danny Ings getting 22 goals and potentially winning a Premier League Golden Boot? It nearly happened, man. Well, I definitely didn't see that coming in. I'm sure he, almost individually, by himself, definitely pushed Southampton to a much higher position. Burnley and Sheffield United. These are the two that I think are really going to change the way that I start making predictions in the future. I had both Burnley and Sheffield going down last season. I had Sheffield in 20th and Burnley in 18th. I have obviously really got these two wrong. They're so far away from where I put them. But when it comes to Sheffield United and Burnley, I'm not weirdly too embarrassed by where I put them. Sheffield were probably one of the least impressive teams coming up from the Championship last season. They didn't really invest in some very good transfers, and I was mainly nervous about their goal scoring. They looked like a very compact side, clearly, but I was nervous about their goal scoring, and I tell you what, despite the fact I've completely got their position wrong, I was still right about their goal scoring. They only got 39 goals all season long, which is not a very high amount for where their position in the table is. Their highest goal scorer was Mick Burney with 6. So they just didn't have a lot of individual names to rely on, and I just didn't have a suspicion, being not that great coming out from the Championship, not terrible, but not amazing, and their goal scoring questions, putting them in 20th, you will not find many people that didn't have them even outside of the relegation zone. So to any person that had Sheffield in the top 10, fucking kudos to you. But I'm really not embarrassed by that pick. I think that Chris Wilder just got the absolute maximum that he could have out of that team, which is fucking fair fucks to him. He is one hell of a manager, and the squad is not even really that amazing to be finishing in this spot. So I just say it's really just a holy shit, Chris Wilder, you've just done bits. And it's kind of the same with Burnley too. They had a very, very bad finish to last season, and that did not fill me with a lot of confidence that they would be able to improve and get to 10th place. Wow. They lost a fair few goal scorers from last season as well. Again, goal scoring was another concern for me. They actually managed to be much better goal scorers than Sheffield United, and yet they finished lower with, I don't think, is anywhere near as impressive a goal difference. So yeah, it's very weird. I'm definitely going to have to start paying more attention to the more compact, well-drilled, well-organized teams, because I think clearly now they have shown that they have the ability to just push that little bit higher than what they really should be. I mean, on paper, their quality may be so far off some teams below them in the table. Do I think on paper they've got a better squad than Everton? I don't know, let's see who else, West Ham United and a few others as well. I definitely don't think so, but yet they've still, just by being that compact team that's really well drilled, really well organized, have those options, have those players that can come back on defense and stuff like that. I think that is now starting to go a long way, and that I'm just going to adapt to that, and I'm going to bring that into my decision making when I do my next Premier League predictions. So yeah, it's a learning experience, this one for me, but not overly embarrassed by any of those two. Arsenal finishing in 8th, I think was a bit surprising, obviously, when I put them in 5th. I think a lot of... I had the top 6 in the top 6 with Chelsea finishing in 6th, obviously because of getting in Frank Lampard, an inexperienced manager, and the transfer ban. Obviously, a lot of people thought Chelsea would not get higher than 6th. In fact, there were some people saying they wouldn't even get European football. Well, they've gone and got Champions League, so fair play to them. But Arsenal, when they signed Nicolas Pepe, he was like smashing it in Ligue 1. That front three looked absolutely deadly. But again, concerned about the defense in the midfield, it came to fruition, and the club was just so toxic at the start of the season, wasn't it? They ousted Emery, ended up going with Arteta. He looks like he could be quite decent and steer them in a good direction, but just, yeah, man, I don't know. Arsenal just an embarrassment of a club for where they are and for who they were to what they've become. It's sad if it wasn't so bloody funny to watch AFTV every week when they lose a game, isn't it? Wolves finishing in 7th when I had them in 8th, so about similar position, but I didn't think Wolves would go back-to-back in 7th. I thought last season they did so well to get to 7th, but just wasn't super sure if they'd be able to, replicate getting up such a high position. I thought a top 10 would be pretty convincing or quite a lot for them, but no, to finish in 7th and only just miss out. I mean, potentially, who knows, Chelsea will win the FA Cup and they'll still get into European football again. But no, I think Wolves to finish where they were is very impressive, especially with the fact that they had to contend with the Europa League. I didn't think that their squad depth would be able to, keep them in the same sort of position in the Premier League they finished last season. So for them to again finish there, whilst, by the way, they're still in the Europa League, they've still got the round of 16 second leg or whatever to play. So the fact that they've been able to do that, very impressed. Now, Tottenham finishing in 6th when I had them in 3rd. Again, let's rewind this very quickly. We're talking about a team that made a Champions League final. Yeah, they weren't that impressive in the final, but they made a Champions League final. Okay, we have to talk about that. They were genuinely being touted as, is there a chance Spurs maybe could contend? They had so much, there were a lot of expectations for Spurs, We really thought, hey, this could be a pretty big year for them. But then they had a really quite surprisingly bad start and sacked Poch. Who the fuck would have seen that coming? Absolutely no one. So the fact that they freefalled is not that big of a surprise. Finished in 6th. Yeah, I don't know. Just another bizarre season for Tottenham. The fact that they couldn't get any higher than 6th is quite, but just the fact that their season ended up the way that it did was definitely I could not have called. I don't think anyone could have. Leicester finishing in 5th is also, when I had them in 10th, that's going to require explaining. They didn't really make an awful lot of investments. Like, their biggest signing was Jose Perez, who was good, but I think looking back on the season, has hardly been a star for them. And, they lost Harry Maguire back when we all thought, he's actually quite decent. And everyone was like, how are they going to replace him? Well, they did find one bloke by the name of that Turkish guy that every time I say it, get made fun of in the comments. What is it? Soyuncu. I have no fucking idea. But they got him in, and arguably he's been a better defender this season than Maguire has. So, I mean, my concerns there pretty much just got wiped. And I just didn't really expect too much. I'm just going to be honest. Brendan Rodgers. I didn't think Brendan Rodgers would be able to take them back to European football again. So, super impressed from him. And I know that the Leicester team on paper is clearly very good. And for me to have put them in 10th is, now that I look back, is even then a bit stupid. 8th or 9th, sure. But, 10th embarrassing. I'm a little embarrassed by this pick, to be honest. Now for the top 4, though. Chelsea, again, I touched on them before. The whole transfer ban, getting Frank Lampard in. For them to finish 6th, I actually sort of backed them a bit by putting them in 6th. So, to see them finish in 4th is, very impressive. It definitely is. So, fair play to them. Manchester United, I actually predicted they would be the ones that finished in that 4th spot. Went one better finishing in 3rd. And considering Manchester United just finished 3rd this season when they've, again, had a bit of a up and down year. Well, it feels like they've had up and down seasons for the last God knows how many years. But there's a sense of optimism about Manchester United now, isn't there? It definitely looks like Ole's going to keep the job long term unless they really have a stinker last or next season. But I just don't see that happening, do you? I expect some reasonably good things from Manchester United. It was touted as a bit of a rebuild year for them at the start anyway, but still thought they'd make Champions League, and fair play to them, they've managed to do that. And yes, I had Manchester City finishing on top, with Liverpool coming second again for the second, third year, whatever in a row. Just because with Manchester City, we're talking about last season and the season before that, arguably the best Premier League team of all time. 100 points, and then 98 points. Like, that is just ridiculous. They had shown that they were such a consistent threat over the course of an entire season, and I didn't know if Liverpool would be able to do that. I thought Liverpool winning the insane amount of games that they did toward the end of last season to keep up with Man City was just nuts. But as impressed as I was with Liverpool for them to be able to win so many games in a row, I was more impressed in Man City because it showed that they had the bottle, that they weren't going to, despite being chased all this way by Liverpool, that they kept staying in front. I thought it was more impressive for Man City, that whole ridiculous run. And I thought they'd do it again. I didn't see why they wouldn't be so far off the pace and why they wouldn't finish so many points away from the tally that they finished with like last season. It is quite surprising. But fair play to Liverpool. Clearly they were, I don't know. No one doubted their ability, but I didn't know over the course of a full season whether they'd be able to do it. But they absolutely just were so consistent and so dominant, especially at Anfield. I think they went a massive, massive way. Anfield, when that Liverpool team was roaring and, the fans knew, holy shit, we might be on for a potential, title here. It just became just such a stronghold for them, and just they had those moments, didn't they, at the beginning of the season, like that really late comeback against Aston Villa, the fucking goal against Everton where it hit the crossbar and Pickford spilt it and it was headed in by Origi. Like, just they had those moments that made you go, it's those things right there that just make you feel like, and Man City just kind of, I talked about the bottle that they showed to stay ahead of Liverpool that whole time. Well, I think they kind of quit. They kind of mentally were a bit defeated very early on in the season, it feels like. And not only that, I think it was Liverpool's, defeat or them beating Man City at Anfield that was pretty much the moment that we went, wow, yeah, it's going to happen. I think these guys are going to win it. And who knows, if Man City had a slightly stronger start to their season, were feeling a bit more confident, had a slightly better game against Liverpool, maybe picked up a result, things could have gone differently, but Liverpool deserve champions regardless. And yeah, I'm actually kind of happy that another team, aside from Man City, has gone on and won the title. Even if it is Liverpool, I will completely be honest with you. I'll tell you what, it's actually not, even though I look at the positions of where I put teams and where they finish, there are some stinkers. It's not absolutely abysmal. It's Sheffield United and Burnley, and also I guess Watford as well, that I'm pretty, Watford I just put a safe bet in. Oh, they finished here last season, I'll go there again. Sheffield United didn't think much of, Burnley didn't think much of, but that's just because I didn't really rate a compact, well-organised, average squad over a, maybe not as drilled, but just better talent, better players in general. I don't know. I'm definitely going to change my approach when it comes to predictions in the future because of Sheffield and because of Burnley. But it's a learning experience for me. And I was really dreading recording this video, but yet weirdly at the end of it, I'm not totally embarrassed. I'm not happy at all. I would have loved to have just got everyone right, but I'd like to meet one person that had a fucking banger of a prediction, because this table, compared to what we were all thinking it would look like at the beginning of the season to now, is crazily different. But that will do it though, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not feeling as bad at the end of this as I thought I would be, so I'm taking that as a win. I'm still gonna do a prediction at the beginning of the next Premier League season, so I can't wait for that. And to think we're not gonna have to wait long until the next one. So another Premier League prediction will, be coming for the next season in a couple of weeks, whenever we're about to get underway with it. We'll wait to see what transfers, if anything, happens. We'll wait to see what the fuck happens with this COVID and if players can even move and shit. I don't know. But regardless, we're in for a very, very interesting pandemic Premier League season for the next one. So we'll just see how it all goes. Thank you everyone for watching. My name is Masterbucks. Until the next one, don't forget to like and subscribe for plenty more football, FIFA, all that goodness. But until the next videos, have a good one. Catch you later and bye-bye.